I didn't plan to make this video, but here we are. So I just got done watching Kid Cosmic on Netflix, and boy oh boy, I cannot recommend it highly enough. To the point that I'm taking precious time away from editing my next Doctor Who podcast, which I've been putting off for like 2 weeks already, to briefly convince you guys to give it a shot. It kinda sorta maybe worked with Infinity Train, and this is even shorter, so let's see how it goes. Netflix tends not to miss with its original animated projects, go watch Hilda by the way, and Kid Cosmic came from pretty much out of the blue as this really fun, idiosyncratic story about power, powerlessness, and being a kid, which frankly gives me vibes of something like Flight of the Navigator or The Iron Giant. Our hero is the kid, no other name given, who lives in a very, very small desert town and thrives on an affinity for superhero comics. Dude lives for the opportunity to be a hero himself, and he gets his chance when 5 cosmic stones get blown into town as the result of galactic conflict. Pretty much immediately, an assortment of different alien species are out to grab the trinkets, so to keep the planet safe, Kid puts together his best impromptu superhero team, each with an assorted stone. There's himself, with the ability to fly, his grandpa, I think, who can multiply, a wanderlust-stricken teen waitress who can create portals, a 4-year-old who can grow gigantic, and a precognitive cat. Through togetherness, determination, and oftentimes just plain dumb luck, they stop a myriad of alien invasions, though the origins of their stones, as well as some of their adversaries, hold some dark secrets. Tell you what, I think you'll get a kick out of this series if you really like the movie Shazam. On the surface, they couldn't appear more different, and Kid Cosmic's surface is quite the shiny one, with creator Craig McCracken bringing a sun-stricken, older comic book flair to his signature art style, alongside a killer original soundtrack, but the two really have a lot in common. There's the in-over-their-head, self-interested child protagonist, the wacky sense of humor, the quaint, intimate, small-town vibe, missing from a lot of other superhero stories, and the fact that the characters spend quite a lot of time filming themselves. Maybe the comparison sticks out in my mind because Kid Cosmic plays more like a movie than a show anyway. It's one of the few series, streaming or otherwise, that I genuinely feel is best consumed in one long binge. Trim it down just a bit and I could easily see it playing in theaters as one piece. The show's humor is charming, never quite laugh-out-loud hilarious for me, but it does the job and tides you over. I know quite a few people are gonna get big laughs out of some of the darker jokes. The action is also pretty fun, and the use of powers is nice and creative, with all the oomph and energy you might expect from a Powerpuff Girls alum. The real appeal aside from the aesthetic, though, is the characters. Kid, Joe, Papa G, Rosa, Tuna Sandwich, and even their abrasive alien captive Stuck Chuck have a really cozy group dynamic, and all of their assorted voice actors breathe a ton of life into them. Kid in particular is a really compelling protagonist. The kind of figure you can find endearing and sympathetic just as often as you do frustrating. And he's got a great arc with quite a few things to say. About embracing his flaws and inexperience as a strength, and not letting his ego take a hit when he can't live up to his own ludicrous heroic standards. About seeing outside himself and recognizing that his wants can't always come first. About understanding when others know better and when it's time to relinquish some control. And about learning that being a hero doesn't always mean adhering to the well-worn tropes. I like the subtle and sometimes very unsubtle ways that Kid's character arc plays into the more macro-thematic statements the show is making about the world in general. Let's just say you can really tell this show was written in the Trump era, and the final act of the story is a scathing, pretty heavy-handed indictment toward the idea of superheroes and global superpowers as outlet for the self-aggrandizing us versus them, punch first, ask questions later power fantasy that's been the ethos of a large chunk of the genre and my country for the longest time. It's a really good this is what superheroes should be narrative for kids, and really I think that cuts to the heart of it. This show is really in tune with the spirit of childhood, and it balances indulging and interrogating the appeal of being a superhero for children specifically. If you have kids, you'd be doing them a huge service by letting them watch this. The show does manage to hit just as many tropes as it dodges, superhero or otherwise, though I'm not 100% sure whether I view that as a criticism or not. One criticism I do have is that the show ends with a very abrupt kind of tonally jarring tease for the next season that might undermine the otherwise conclusive finale in terms of theming, though I suppose the extent of my issues will depend on where the series goes from here. But you really ought to decide for yourself and give the show a watch. It's incredibly easy to tear right through, and hey, once you're done, why not come back and give some thoughts in the comments. Give this video a like and sub to see more like it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the future.